Hey everyone, welcome back to the Inside AutoMind podcast, where we highlight leaders driving efficiency, innovation, and growth across supply chain and logistics. Today I'm joined by Joe Myers, president of Lighthouse. So Joe's been around trucking his entire life, from his dad to his uncles, where they were truck drivers, and now he's bringing work ethic into building a people-first logistics company that's embracing technology and change. Joe, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
So, kind of to touch on that, I was checking out about your background, and I told we talked about it a little before previously, but you do have about, I think, 30 years in trucking. That's pretty crazy. So you've pretty much grown up in this industry. I think that kind of background gives you a whole different perspective, how things really work.
Yeah. So growing up, my dad was a truck driver. So I can remember him coming to the house and parking and me going out and looking inside his truck and asking him questions. And then at 21, I started working for a company as a dispatcher, and I had to go out on the road for my first 30 days. And I would help. I was with one driver. He was an oversized 9 axle driver. So he was an open deck, and I had to help him tarp loads, chain loads, anything and everything. So I kind of got the inside of what it was like in a very short, time period. I learned a little bit about the downtime and what it was like to be a driver and the issues they have to face. And I did that for about 5 years. And then I got a job at a small brokerage called TQL, and they just went crazy, blew up. And I got to see a lot of that. And then I left in 2016 and had an opportunity to become president of Lighthouse and become a partner. So I jumped at that opportunity, and I've been here almost 9 years now.
Okay, so I remember you also mentioning you started a podcast and you're a few episodes in. So how has that been going?
So yeah, I am in episode 4 of my podcast. I'm really passionate about Lighthouse and about what we do. I think what we're doing is really good. I love it. I love our people. I took a lot of things I learned, in the industry and brought them over here to kind of be a people first. There is a life outside of this. Now, I'm obsessed with logistics and obsessed with this place, but I know other people don't, sleep, eat, and breathe trucking like I do. So we're very forward thinking with how we treat our people. And, I think that shows with some of the accolades we've been awarded, which, is best places to work in Cincinnati in 2023. And then we were finalists in 24 and 25. We're very passionate about our people and understanding that there's a life work balance. With our cell phones, we can work anywhere. So we're not kind of married to our desk, but as long as our job's getting done, and I think with the growth we've seen, the job's getting done. And so that's it. But so yeah, 4 episodes, a cup of Joe. I'm learning as we go. And then I recently got on TikTok, and I'm trying to learn. I'm not dancing yet, but I am trying to learn, how to get that. Anything I can do to spread the word of Lighthouse and get it out there. I mean, we're living in a world where everything is, this is free. So LinkedIn, all that stuff is free advertising. And I'm trying to advertise to carriers and to customers that we're here, we're an option. And, feel free to give me a call or reach out and see if we can be some value to each other.
No, for sure. Yeah, I think it started off as a dancing thing and things like that with different challenges, but definitely now people do use it a lot more for the marketing aspects across many industries. But I love that work culture that you guys are having, A lot of people work their employees a little too much or kind of where they get demotivated or they feel undervalued. So that's a big aspect for a lot of people when they're, looking at employers. So
Yeah, cold calling is difficult, and especially now in this market, it's a very saturated market. And a lot of our guys are making 80 to 100 phone calls, if not more, a day, and they deal with a lot of rejection. So there's got to be some fun to this job. That's one of our fun is one of our pillars to our company, and we try to keep it fun and loose. You're dealing with nothing but chaos around you because transportation, if it's going to happen, it's, something bad's going to happen. It's usually on your first shipment or something like that. Or we deal with issues every day. So we try to have a little fun as we do it and move along.
No, I can tell based on your LinkedIn videos of some of like your interactions with your employees, they definitely seems like they enjoy that.
Yeah, I think sometimes they like, here he comes again. And, I just got done actually like about 20 minutes ago going around the office asking the percentage of truck drivers in the United States that are women. So I got some pretty good answers out of that. So I try to keep it involved in trucking, and I also, try to keep it fun too. So something to be different,
Yeah, for sure. No, I
trying to
love it.
as much as I can without annoying everyone.
No, I love that. So let's set the stage a little for maybe listeners who don't know much about Lighthouse yet. For you touched a little bit on it earlier, but for those who aren't familiar, can you tell us what Lighthouse is all about? Of course, trucking, but what inspired you to start it, and everything like that?
Well, Lighthouse actually originated in 1987 as a trucking company, and then we had ownership start in 2011, and that's kind of where the brokerage really kind of took off. So we still have some assets, but when companies call and say, "Hey, are you asset?" And I always tell our people to be honest with them, like, yes, we do have assets, but the odds of us picking up your shipment in San Antonio, Texas with a Lighthouse truck is never going to happen. We keep our assets very close to, a lot of our drivers are home every night because we have a lot of freight here locally in the Cincinnati area. So we do have assets, but we broker 99% of our freight out. And the opportunity came to me when I had a friend who came to work at Lighthouse in 2014, and they were growing and they were having some growing pains. So in 2016, I took the leap to come on as president and partner. But I realized very early on that they didn't need a president right away. They needed revenue. So I hit the phones and started drumming up business. That took off. I handed business off to some employees on the floor and then started making more calls and grew up another account and then handed that off and then did it again. I just want to see us be successful. I like the hunt of cold calling and, going out and getting new customers and talking to people and getting the objections and trying to overcome them and then coming up with a solution that where we add value. You know, one of my big things is, as I tell people, is like, we're not reinventing the wheel. We're not the highest of the industry standards with all of our technology and all this stuff. Like, what we're really good is what we can control, and that's our communication. And we're honest and transparent. Like, there's going to be problems. We're going to have trucks who are late. We're going to have trucks who miss delivery or miss pickup or want to spend home at the weekend and don't make that delivery on Monday. The thing that I think makes us a little bit different is we're going to face it right in front of you and say, hey, we messed up. I had a thing today where I was taking my kids to school, and at 7:00, I was on a call with a customer telling, like, yeah, we messed up. And we did. We had the wrong bill of lading. It had the wrong PO number on it, and we missed our delivery. Now, thankfully, we got it rescheduled, but I told him this was our fault. We'll take care of the driver. The driver was really understanding. We paid him for his time. He went to a truck stop, and we got him unloaded later on this morning. So I think that's about it. That's, I don't call and promise the world to people. I'm honest, and I feel like I'm genuine, and I hope that comes across with people when I'm talking to them. Like, I'm going to answer the phone, at 3 a.m. when you call me and say, why is this truck there? I'm going to pick up and I'm going to handle it and make sure it gets done. And I hope, and I think that I've got a group of people that work with me downstairs that are just as passionate about their customers, because I know they can call anyone. I mean, at this time, every other phone call is probably someone looking for business. So once we get that business, we try to hold on to it with our customer service, our honesty. Same thing with carriers. We try to do the right thing with carriers. And I think that's why if you ever look at our Google reviews, that reflects it. We have a very high Google score for broker. We try to do the right thing all the time.
No, that's really big. I was thinking of the same exact word when you mentioned genuine. I feel like it's really easy to tell when someone is genuine and honest, and I guess that's big in any industry is customer satisfaction, tending to the customer. But it seems like you were a big part of the growth. It seems like you guys, took off after you got there and started handing off accounts and things like that.
Yeah, yeah. This will be our best year ever. So I think it's quadrupled since I've been here. So I'm not satisfied. I'm happy where we're at, but I'm not satisfied because when you go into something, especially when I was at TQL too, like the growth there was just crazy. So I kind of thought we would grow like that here, but it just hasn't happened. I guess it's hard for me to stack one up against each other, but I'm competitive and I think that we're great, but it'll happen when it happens. And I don't, I don't know if I ever want to be an $8 billion company or $6 billion company, but I want to be as big as we can be. But I still want to know the people on the floor. Like I want to know people's names, stories, stuff like that. So I don't
I
want to
like
lump.
that attitude. There's always room for growth, right? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, we can always be better. Always. Yeah, and I want the growth, but I also love the fact that like I know, every morning when I walk in, I walk around the whole office and say hi to everybody. I actually know their name and, they know they can come up and talk to me whenever they have a problem or if I need to jump on a call with them or something. So I want to grow, I want to get big but I guess I like the fact that I know everyone still.
No, that's amazing. That's a great leadership trait to have, to actually know your team.
Yeah.
So I guess you've been in logistics long enough to see it all, probably from handwritten logs. Now they got AI powered dispatch. I mean, so like a little bit of how you've seen the industry evolve over the years, and what do you think kept you passionate through all those different changes?
You got to adapt. I know I'm not the smartest person in the majority of the rooms I'm in. The thing for me is to try to adapt. Now, I won't sit here and lie and tell you that I'm going to be the guy that drives our AI or any tech stuff because I'm not that person. That's not my strength. My strength is people and sales. So, but I do feel that it is going to, and it has already gone to where you're seeing AI do a lot of this scheduling, AI doing check calls, all that stuff, which, we're looking at a lot of different avenues on how AI can help us and make us better. I don't, at this point, I don't want to get in too much where I see employees losing jobs because of AI. Like that would bother me. And I don't think we're there yet, but maybe down the road, who knows? I don't know if that's an angle that we'll take. But just like offshore stuff, we have an offshore team that helps us, and they've been great. And we've had a relationship with them for 4 or 5 years, and it's a strong one. And we'll continue to do it because they have a good work ethic, and they really help us out. So right now we're looking at AI at a bunch of different things: scheduling, check calls, helping, on calls, like dissecting, live cold calls, trying to learn how to overcome objections and then transcribe stuff while you're on the phone with them. So we're not shying away from anything if it comes to us and makes sense.
Yeah, I think it seems like a lot of people, it's at that point where, well, not yet, it's in the infancy stages, but eventually it's kind of either you have to adapt or you get left behind.
Yeah. And I think logistics has been a slow evolving industry with adapting to some of this stuff. And now with the AI, it's really kind of just like you have to get on board or you will be left behind. You'll be swallowed up. So we're doing our part. I'm a part of some meetings. Sometimes I don't understand everything we're doing or what can be done or whatever, but you know, I think we're going to integrate as much as we can if it makes sense.
Yeah. Well, actually, I was going to touch on AI a little bit so here shortly, but right now there's a lot happening in logistics from freight market shifts to tech adoption, like we were just mentioning, to even driver retention. From your perspective, what is the biggest changes you're seeing? Is it just AI or is there a lot of other things going on you're noticing?
So since I've been doing this, there's always been fraud, scammers, double brokering. I think it's getting better and better. They're getting really good at spoofing emails, phone numbers. They're getting into the FMCSA site and changing phone numbers. And we've been fortunate enough to put some SOPs in place to try to prevent it as much as we can. But I think everyone's susceptible to that. I think that's been the biggest change because we've almost reverted back to the old days of making sure we're calling everyone, making sure we're talking to someone at the government, the number we have on the government site. And if this person does work for them or, because of the dispatching services or they're in this office and headquarters is in that office, it's adding a little bit of extra work for our people. But if it keeps our customers and carriers safe and we're willing to put in that extra work, hopefully this stuff gets taken care of sooner than later, but I don't know if it will. So yeah, that's the biggest thing now is how good and how much we're dealing with fraud and how often.
It seems like you guys, that's a win for you guys. I mean, it seems like it's working, but I mean, there's a lot of wins and roadblocks. So what do you think is working really well for Lighthouse lately? And maybe what's, on the other hand is the biggest challenge would be that. But yeah, what do you think is working well for you guys?
Well, I would say a big thing is that we don't have, well, for one, we can adapt to anything. There's nothing that's written in stone that we can't pivot on and do. We're small enough now where we can adapt to almost anything. The way that we can go downstairs and just have a quick, brief meeting with our team and say, hey, this is happening. We're able to bring everyone involved and get it done pretty quickly instead of having a town hall or something that goes out. But we're really starting to see some wins on is we're finally starting to see some big customers, some Fortune 100 customers. We're starting to land some of them. And we've been landing them the last few years. I've seen a lot more. And we're starting to see more revenue from it, more availability as far as we're getting bigger on wards when we do our RFQs. So that's growing. So the footprint on big customers is starting to take off, which is helping us, obviously. So getting our name out there so people know who we are, doing things like this that I never thought I would be doing 3 or 4 years ago. No one wants to talk to me. I'm not jumping on anyone's podcast or having my own. So I think it starts from up top. I'm doing things that really make me uncomfortable. And I think the people see that and they know that I'm willing to do whatever to make us better. And that is contagious. And, you got people who are really busting their butt down there and doing things the way that we want things done. So I hope that kind of cleans stuff that's kind of all over the place, but yeah.
No, that's another perfect leadership trait. I mean, the fact that you're willing to take on things that make you uncomfortable. I feel like that's probably the biggest driver of growth in anyone's life is sometimes taking on things that make you feel uncomfortable. You should learn how to be as much as possible, but comfortable in uncomfortable situations.
Yeah. So when it comes to talking about certain things, I'm very outgoing and can talk all day, but I'm not the guy that you send to conferences who just want to mix it up with people, having a beer and talking like this. This is more my element. So, and even this is, not what I thought I would be doing, but I'm enjoying it, actually. My wife was like, who are you? And I'm like, I don't know, because there was a day, I was on the phone. She was like, what are you doing? I was like, well, there's a lady who asked how she should start a brokerage on TikTok. And I gave her the most in-depth answer. And my wife was like, what are you doing? It's like, I'm trying to help this lady start a brokerage. Her husband's a truck driver. And I said, these would be the things that I would do if I were you. So we went back and forth and hopefully I helped her, because that's what I would want someone to do is to pick up the phone and answer and try to help me out. So
knowledge is key, right? A lot of people try to hoard knowledge, and I never understood that. But the fact that you're willing to take your time and help someone else out, that's amazing.
I love that the most. I mean, I put as much as I can here on any secrets that I have for cold calling, things, anything that I think will help someone else. There's enough freight out there. I mean, it's a $1 trillion industry, and I know we can't handle it all. So I want people out there to learn from me, to learn the mistakes I made or things that worked for me that can help them. I know that there's always a different path to get there. And you don't have to sound like me or say what I say to cold call or land business. But I bet I have some information that might help you gain some sort of advantage. So that's what I try to do in my meetings. So I started a cup of Joe where I was just putting everything on LinkedIn like once a week. And then that formed into a podcast. So I enjoy seeing people, and I think this is an industry where you don't have to be the smartest person in the room. You don't have to be college educated. You can be anyone from anything. And sales in general, if you've got a little bit of grit and hustle and grind, and you don't mind rejection, you can be very successful. And that's what I loved about this and fell in love, because I had jobs or thought that my job going forward was going to be just a salary. And if I outworked anyone, I still was going to get paid the same. And when I found that I could have an uncapped income, it's like, I'm just going to work my butt off and work my tail off. Like I kind of just zoned out everything else I was doing and hit the phones. So that's what I try to teach. And I try to tell people that. And, we've had some success through it, but it's definitely great to see someone coming in with a beat up car, and then 3 years down the road, you see them in a brand new car, or they're able to buy a house, and we gave them the tools to get there. Like, it's pretty cool. Like, I love seeing their success.
Yeah. There's a lot of room, I guess, sales, there's a lot of room for opportunity, but it is a grind, it's not for everyone.
No, it's definitely not for everybody.
Yeah. So you've seen this industry from every angle. I like asking this question because it's always unique answers. But if you had a magic wand and could instantly fix one thing, maybe inside trucking, in logistics, or just in Lighthouse, what would that be?
That is a good question.
In a perfect world,
Man, I don't know. Like, I tell you one thing that I deal with. This is just me in general. But the fact that the customers have gotten so savvy now where they don't answer the phone like they used to when I started. Everyone has a line or an email, and it takes forever for someone to understand, like, I'm not a robot. I just want to see if we're a good fit and add value. I mean, that's probably not the best answer you've ever heard about this, but off the top of my head, like, that's the most frustrating part for me is getting people to answer the phone and actually have conversations. And I get it. Like, we all get spam calls, and the first thing we want to do is get people off the phone. But sometimes people add some value, and all I want to do is try to see if you have some pain points that I can help you out with. And then going back to the trucking side, the fraud thing is in people scamming trucking companies. That's got to get fixed. That has got to get fixed, because there's carriers who are being taken advantage of, and they're having their identity stolen, and brokers are putting these reports on carrier 411, and it's crushing some small carriers. So I wish that would get fixed. And one of the big problems is who do you report it to? Like, which local jurisdiction is it? And if it's not this one and they don't care because it's not in theirs, like, there's got to be some way that we can fix this and have an avenue to go to report it and say, these are the problems. Here's where it's coming from. And then it gets handled.
Yeah. No, I don't. I mean, that's why I like asking that question, because there's always unique answers, and I don't think there was a bad answer at all. And what you said, that's pretty powerful. I think a lot of people can resonate with that.
Yeah, if people are picking up the phone and calling and reaching out on LinkedIn like I am, and making calls and emails, and it could be very, very frustrating, because I'm sending videos to people. I'm making videos in drive-throughs when I'm waiting, like, hey, it's Joe, we're connected on LinkedIn, I noticed you're doing this, and I just want to connect with you and see if there's any opportunity for us to to work together and if we're a good fit. And yeah, I'm always trying to sell.
Now, like you were mentioning, I think that is the biggest hurdle for most people in sales is getting that initial through that initial door, and then once they realize you can add value, from there it's a little smoother. But I think everybody struggles with that hurdle in the beginning.
Yeah, that's a really big change that I've seen from when I started cold calling in 2002 to making cold calls in 2025. It was a different thing back in 2002 because people are like, well, what's a broker? Who's this? Or what do you do there? And then, they only wanted to deal with assets. And then now everyone's got a phone number that probably has an answering machine that no one really looks at or listens to, and then an email that no one looks at. So yeah, I'd love to know the percentage of people who actually see the messages I send or listen to them. I think it's really low. Maybe I don't want to know the answer. Yeah.
Kind of to touch on, I guess you mentioned it earlier, but to circle back to the AI, you brought up a really cool thing that I think a lot of people are looking into, and ourselves also is you've been exploring like the live call tools and things like that, how they can handle objections in real time. And that's something we've been seeing pop up across logistics, but in almost every industry now. So I know you did mention you guys are looking into that. Have you guys tested anything, or is it just starting to look into what's out there?
We haven't landed on anything now. So we do things now where we do a lot of call coaching with our brokers. And the thought process of that is just when you go back and you look at, like, let's say that if you look at an NFL team, they play on Sundays or Mondays, and the next day or whatever, they're looking at film. And not only are they seeing the bad things, but they're seeing the good things. And film session is extremely important. It's not there to criticize you or show you if you missed a block, or you had one coverage and you shifted over if you're a safety and left a guy down the middle and didn't cover for that guy. It's really to help you. And that's what we do with our call coaching. But it's a lot. And it's a lot for us to listen to a lot of calls. So I wanted to find something that we could just put calls in, have them transcribe it, listen to it, and then give some feedback on what we may have missed to see if it could be quicker for us so we can go through more calls. And then my thought process was, let's see if we can find something that can listen to live calls. And then let's teach it to see if it can listen for some objections and then be able to overcome some objections. I definitely think it's doable, and we're talking to some people about it. I don't know when it'll be up and going, but I'm looking forward to that, to where, because there's times where just in anything, you kind of get caught off. Like, as long as I've been doing this, there's been someone that says something to me that's like, man, and you just lose track. And if there's that little thing that can help you, say, hey, ask this or do this. So that's my thought process. Hopefully we can create it, or if it's already out there, call me, because I'm willing to listen.
No, I think a lot of companies are actually starting with that. I think until very recently, I mean, AI in general is very recent as far as, when it blew up. But I think there is a lot of companies starting to explore things like that. It's relatively new. I don't think it's really available to like in the masses yet, but I think it will be shortly.
Yeah, you're
No,
probably
but I
right.
love that. So it's like it's clear that you're not just focused on growth, you're also focused on smarter and more efficient growth, which is a big deal. That mindset's what's going to separate you from future leaders, in this space or in any industry. But kind of going back to that whole adapt or fall behind thing, it's the same. I like to usually close out with a little leadership and future vision segments.
Okay.
So you've been leading teams for a while now, for decades, but what's one leadership lesson that really stuck with you throughout, all the ups and downs of the industry through your time?
Really just want to treat people. I mean, it's the way that I would always want to be treated. That's why I left and came here, is because, I thought that things could be done a little bit better and different. And I know we've talked about it a lot, but, when you have like 60 people or 100 people or 1,000 people, everyone's different. Everyone's going through something, that you don't know about. And you have to adapt to each person. It's like a coach. You can yell at one person, and then the other person to his left or right or her, you have to learn how each person wants to be managed. And that starts with communication. So I like to meet with everyone at least once a month for 15 to 30 minutes. And those are things that we go over. It's like, how do you like to be managed? And I get to know them, not just about work, but I get to know where they grew up, what they like, what their goals are, what's their why. How can I push them? How do you like to be managed? And those conversations I remember. And then we have a goal, like, hey, who are your next prospects that you think you're going to turn into customers? I write those on the board. So when I walk around and I say, hey, Dustin, how's ABC coming? Like supply, or, how's ABC box coming or whatever. And you'd be like, oh, that's dead. They ghosted me. So I know with certain people that can be pushed, and other people need to be, held, tell them it's going to be okay. Like, you got to put your arms around them and say, hey, it's okay. I'll have setbacks. That has been, I think, to me, maybe my biggest strength, So I'm a broker first and not just a president. Like, my whole thing is I work for them. And I honestly feel that way. They are my boss. And anything I can do to help them out, I'm going to do. Anything to make us better, I'm willing to do.
No, what I took away from that was I really like how you said you remember those conversations. I'm sure they do too. I'm sure pretty much everyone has worked for so-called leaders or, bosses, and just because you're a leader doesn't mean you could just say, "Hey, do this, do that." It's kind of like what through this whole conversation, you've been displaying a lot of, leadership traits that, I really love that. A lot of people are so-called leaders, but they don't display what it is to really be a leader. I feel like that's something most times I feel like that's something you either have or you don't. I feel like I don't know if that's something that can be taught, but it also seems like you're a people person, so that comes to you more naturally.
Yeah. For someone who, if I'm at a party or something, I'm at the side of the room watching, because I don't want to be the center of attention. My 10-year-old son, him and I are completely different, because he's at a wedding with his shirt off, throwing it around like a helicopter, dancing, and I'm just like sitting there just watching, like, where did he get this from? But I do love the people. I think I am pretty good with people. I get to know them, and excuse me, I just don't think I'm better than anyone. I feel like I'm humble. I came up, from a pretty blue collar environment, and that stuck with me. And, I feel like I work alongside these people. They don't work for me. I work for them. I think that comes across. I hope it does, at least.
I mean, to me, it seems like it. I'm not in your team or there day to day, but I can definitely tell it's genuine when you mention it.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, of course. So looking ahead, what would you consider a success for Lighthouse maybe over the next year or two? What does winning look like to you?
More hires, more growth. I would love to open up in a city, another office. That's been on my radar for a while now. Cincinnati has been kind of the mecca of, I feel like, brokerages. So hiring here has been difficult. I think we would have a little bit better of an opportunity in some other city. I don't know where. I've thought about some places that I could get to fairly quickly. Like, if I got on a plane, I could be there by lunchtime if something happened, or, so that's really something that I'm looking forward to. And just growth, like, I just want to grow. I want to get a bigger footprint, but I want to do it in the right way. And, we're going to take our time and do things the Lighthouse way, and we'll hit it, we will. So yeah, it's exciting.
No, I mean I love that. So it's not just about moving freight. It's more about moving the industry forward. I can really feel that in how you talk about your mission for sure.
Yep. So it's not just me and customers, it's carriers, like taking care of carriers, not hitting them for things that, I don't have people coming up asking me, like, can I hit the carrier for this? And it's just like, they know better. They know I'm going to say no. They know that, and I've taught that to the other leaders that are downstairs. And it's like a locker room when you've got people there that are policing the locker room themselves. I use sports analogy a lot, because that's one of my passions and things that, I grew up playing sports, and, I don't want to be the one that's always got to be watching people. So, I think we do a good job kind of controlling our locker room and doing things the right way. The things the way, you would want to be treated if you were on the other end of that call, or if you were the driver sitting, like today. We messed up. It was 100% our fault, not the driver's fault. So we took care of him, So he'll work with us again. And that's what makes me feel good.
Yeah, I feel like the sports analogy was perfect for that. I feel like a lot of people would be able to relate, when you do it that way.
Yeah, so the calls, I always talk about film session. The locker room, you have other people saying, we don't do that here. Like, no, that's not the right way.
Well, Joe, so that was an awesome conversation. I appreciate you sharing your insights, your journey, and your mindset on how you're helping push this industry forward. But for anyone listening who wants to connect with you or learn more, where can they find more about you and Lighthouse online?
So our website is lighthouse.ai. Then I'm on LinkedIn. It's Joe Myers. And before our website, I have a podcast called Cup of Joe. And, I think that's about it.
Are you putting it on like Spotify and YouTube and things like that? Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
I just figured out what that was. That's
so everyone go check it out on Spotify.
Yeah, for sure. You could be our 9th follower.
Hey, everybody started somewhere, right?
Yeah.
Oh, perfect, though. We'll drop those links in the show notes so everyone can see it. But again, Joe, I appreciate your time. And to everyone listening, thanks for tuning in to Inside AutoMind, and see you next time.
Thank you.